Shalom. Glad you guys could make it. Welcome. Here we are. Hey, thanks, Jeff. Jeff liked the intro. All right. I appreciate that, Achi. Thanks. And we're going to be praying for Gary that he may have a great presentation, code review today, that all will go well. That Hashem will make him the head and not the tail. Shalom, Julie, Thea, Enrique. Good to see you, Achi. Hallelujah. You're welcome. Michael, Betty, Brenda, Annie, Shalom. Kenneth, Pei. I got Jeff already, right? Pereira, Trisha, all right. Glad you all are here. We got a minion. I love it. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to open with a prayer, and our prayer will be Psalm 20. And then we will get into Exodus, Hebrew, Exodus chapter 26, verse 15. Okay, so let's get right over to that. You guys hearing me well? Am I coming through okay? You can hear me, huh? Hey, Shalom, Huzik River Ben. Glad you're here, Achi. Shalom, Vicky. Okay. Boom. Tehillim, Perek Kaf. That's 20. All right, everything looking clear on the document camera tonight. Okay, thanks, Brenda, for the sound check. Lamnatseach Mizmor LeDavid. For conductor, a Mizmor, a psalm of David, actually David, if you want to say it the old way, but David will say. Ya'annecha Adonai beyom tzara. This is May Adonai. This is with just a force we would call this. May Adonai Anna. Ayin Nun Hey, and the Hey is gone. May he answer Cha, you. Beyom, in the day of tzara, of constrictedness, meaning of trouble or of distress. Yisagevcha Shem Elohei Yaakov. May the name or the fame, the power, probably power here, the power of the Elohim, drop the mem, the Elohei, God of Yaakov, Yisagevcha. May he make Cha, you, into Sagev. Like, this means, may he put you in a protective position. And the imagery is a very high place in the side of a cliff, like where an eagle would build its nest, because no snakes getting there, no predators are getting there. Its eggs are going to be fine. Yishlach Eizlecha Mikodesh Umitzion Yis'adeka. Yishlach, the Yod is he. May he shalach, may he send. Azer. Azer is the word here. It became Azercha because of the suffix for you. May he send Azer, help. For, this is probably dative, for Cha, for you. It could also be genitive, may he send your help. Mikodesh, from sanctuary. Right? And even though there's no article here, I'm going to say from the sanctuary. U and mi, from Zion and from Zion. Yis'adeka. May he sa'ad, support Ka, you. Just like in Tagalog, Ka. Yizkol kol min chotecha. May he zachar, may he remember. Kol, all of minchot, the gifts of Cha, all of your gifts. A mincha is a gift that you had to nacha. The root is nacha, nun, chet, hey. The hey became a tav in this particular word. Something that you would lead usually, like you're leading a goat or some other kind of gift. Although, ironically, or any, it could be something on a cart. So cereal offerings, stuff like this. But eventually, it came to mean just gift, right? A gift. Or we have the mincha prayer time, right? And what it means by may he remember, it means may he take action on account of them, right? I think it even implies that they are memorable. for him. Ve'olatecha, and your olot, your whole burnt offerings, the olots of cha, the things that ale, ayin lamed hey, they go up. Yedashne Selah. May they be fatty. This is a good word for fat. It's related to the word for oil. May they be fatty, it means may they be really good quality. Selah. And we have this moment where we stop and we contemplate. I'm forever indebted to a German pastor who pointed out the meaning of this word. Pastor Staub, wherever you are. Hats off to Selah. Yiten lecha chil vavecha v'chol atzatecha yimalei. May he natan, may he give lecha to you. Chil vavecha, according to the levav of cha, the heart of you, according to your heart. V'chol, and all atzatecha, all of your aitza is the word aitza, ayin sadi hey, and the hey became a tav because it's of. The aitza of cha, of you, the counsel of you, may all of your counsel, with an S, like advice, yimalei, may it be fulfilled. Or filled. Niranana b'shuatecha v'shem Eloheinu nidgol yimalei Adonai kol mi sha'alotecha. Niranana, this is a noon for us at the beginning, reminds you of nachnu or anachnu, and the hey at the end is cohortative or emphaticate. It's like an exclamation point. He could have just said niranen. We will ranan. It means to make this joyous sound, similar to what the Arabs do when they go. It's like this. It's onomatopoetic. Let us rananananana. Or like you hear the Hasidim do sometimes when they sing a nigun and la da 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 da. Like maybe there's no words, but it's niranana. Let us do that. Beshuatecha, with your Yeshua, with your Yeshua. You could leave that just like that, with your Yeshua, or we can get the translation from it, with your victory, with your salvation. Uvishem Eloheinu, and by means of the power, the reputation, the name of Eloheinu, that's the Elohim of Nu, of us. Nu. You notice the noon there, just like the noon at the beginning for us. Nidgol. The noon is reminding us of Nachnu, we will, and if you watched the triennial Torah portion from this last Shabbat, I went into quite a bit of depth about degel, what a degel is. The root meaning of degel, we understand it from Akkadian, it is a flag. It's a flag, it's a banner, right? Nidgol means we will plant the banner high. Yimalei Adonai, may Adonai fill or fulfill. This is like the Greek pleroo. Kol misha'alotecha. All of the misha'alot of cha. All of the root is sha'al, a questioning. But this is one of the many ways, quite poetic, to say your desires. All of your desires, all of your questionings, the deep questionings of your soul. To me, this word feels deeper than just a desire, just a ratzon, or one of the other words for something that you want. This is more like that question that haunts people for much of their life until they finally realize what it is. The why am I here question. What is my purpose? These kinds of deep questions, I believe that's what the psalmist is saying. Yimalei Adonai kol mi sha'alotecha. May he fill up all of those deep questionings, those desires. Ata yadati. Now I know. Ki hoshia Adonai meshicho. That Adonai saves or grants victory to his Mashiach, his anointed one. Ya'anehu, he answers him. Mishemei, from the Shemayim, from heavens, we drop the mem, heavens of Kodsho, his holiness. So that means from his holy heavens. Just a sec, I'm having a positional problem here. Okay. Sorry, it's not so big, but Bigvurot Yesha. Yamino. By means of, that's the bait, with, this is what he's using, the Gevurot, his loftiness of Yesha, of victory, of Yamino, of the Yamin is the right hand. This is the right hand. Like in Psalm 137 where it says, Yerushalayim tishkach yamini. If I forget you, feminine, O Jerusalem, may Yamini, the Yamin of my right hand, lose its dexterity, not be useful anymore. So Yamin is the right hand, and when we put a suffix on the end, it shortens, so we get Yamin, the right hand of him. Again, this is some nice Messianic language there, that Mashiach sits on the right hand. And we even have here this word chosen, Yesha. This is the same, this is a synonym for Yeshua. Ele varechev. These ones with the rechev, with the chariot. Ve'ele, and these ones, or those ones, vasusim, with the horses, like men on horses. Va'anachnu, but we, B'Shem Adonai, by the power of Yod-Heh Waw-Heh, by the authority, by the name, the reputation of Eloheinu, of our God, Nazkir, we will cause a memory, we will cause to be remembered. Hema, those ones, Kare'u, they bend the knees, or they bend down, like in exhaustion, is the imagery. V'nafalu, and they fall down. V'anachnu, but we ourselves, kamnu. This we is unnecessary, it's emphatic, because the nu over here already means we're doing it, from kum. We ourselves are standing. V'nit ardad, and we help each other up. Adonai Hoshia HaMelech, Adonai gives victory to the Melech, to the king. Ya'anenu, he answers us. Now, so it's with the king, and now it's with all of us, the loyal subjects of the king. The subjects of Meshicho. Where was it? It's up here. Oh, Meshicho, his Mashiach. Ya'anenu, he answers, us. V'yom korenu, when we call to him. Literally in the day that we call. Okay, that's our opening prayer. Shalom, Manju, and Mentat Asas, and Stephen. Welcome, everybody. Okay, now let's get on to our Torah portion after I take a brief drink. Feel free to ask any comments or questions. We're going to get into Exodus. Did I say the Torah portion? By the way, for those of you doing the ancient triennial cycle with us, this is really good to do this, because when we went through Genesis, what do? We then, during the week, a couple years ago, we had our Genesis breakouts, right? We repeated the drash, sometimes same week, sometimes a few weeks later in smaller portions, right? So it's getting in our minds. Now, we're actually in Numbers in the triennial parsha, and we're going through Genesis. We're going through Exodus again, right? Where it's like trailing. The learning is trailing. This is really good. When you decide you want to master a book in Torah, in Hebrew, for example, it's a really nice practice to read through it, to do your study, your reading, you're looking up your words and all that stuff. And if you at all possibly can, try to reread it again. Best if you can the same day. If not, at least a day or two later, right? And then if you can, a third cycle really locks it in. Because when you're going over again and you see those words that you looked up, the first time you repeat, you're going to remember some of them. You don't need to look it up again. And now your brain has seen them in context being used. And that's that's one level of locking that in your memory so that you can own those words. And when you go through again, even if you have to look some up again, that's okay. But this process of pegging them in, memory pegging with the words that are around them. And if you do any kind of Davar Torah, any kind of teaching, I promise you, you're going to really be surprised sometimes when you're teaching. Ruach HaKodesh is going to bring up verses in Hebrew, or some of the words of the verses, like verse chunks, pieces of verses in the Hebrew. And that will start to happen more and more and more. And it's really, you're just going to be delighted with it, just to see that happening. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I knew that verse. Or I didn't even know that I knew that part. What's happening is the same thing that happens in your native language. Sometimes you think of a verse, right? When you're teaching or sharing or just talking to a family member or teaching a child or something. But that will gradually, over time, start to happen more and more with Lashon HaKodesh, with the Holy Tongue. Okay? All right. Let's go on then to... I need to change here. Boom. Okay. Now we're in our Torah portion, and I can write on the screen. All right. So... Oh, I forgot to make the pointer pink or whatever. That's fine. You can still see it, right? Okay, so today we are on Hebrew Exodus chapter 26, verse 15. And you'll notice here, I know I said this before, but I do want to point it out again. Maybe I'll just, here. Here. Hold on. I think you'll like this. All right, so there's something that happens. So the Hebrew numerals, they're the alphabet, right? And it's pretty regular. So you see Aleph, that's 1, right? Bet, 2. Gimel, 3. 1, 2, 3, etc. Until you get to Yod, and Yod is 10. Okay, shooting star over there. That's 10. And now it's pretty logical after here. So for several of the numbers, we've got... Okay. So... Sorry, my ones look kind of like the Yods. It's a bit sloppy, I guess. But... All right, so when you want to say 11, you just take Yod, because that's 10, and we add the Aleph, right? So Yod and Aleph, well, that's 11. Right? Yod and Bet, well, that's 12. Yod and Gimel, well, that's 13. Yod and Dalet, well, that's 14. But 15 is where things get strange, and that's what our verse is today. You would think that Yod plus Hey, because Hey is 5, that would be 15. But this is not the way it is in the Hebrew Bible. Out of respect for the divine name, Yod He Vav He, we actually are talking about the nickname, Yod He, right? Yod He is the nickname. It's a shorter form, not as holy as the full divine name. And this is what we find in theophoric names, right? Like in my Hebrew name, Yirmiyahu, right? Yirmiyahu, right? Ka will yarum hu. Ka will lift him up, right? Or in Hallelujah, right? Praise to Ka, right? So we find in these kind of expressions, or Shabahuya, or Noraya, right? All these expressions, they have the shorter form that makes us think of the long, unpronounceable holy name. And so what happens is we don't want to make even a shortcut of his names. We don't want to make that mundane. So instead, the way that the numbering system works in the Hebrew Bible is everything is logical. Over here, la, 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 11, 12, 13, 14, it all makes sense, right? 10 plus 1, 10 plus 2, 10 plus 3, 10 plus 4. And then the brakes, we screech to a stop. And now, instead of Yod, actually maybe I'll change back to red. Now instead of Yod, we're going to use 9, which actually happens to be Tet. Tet. Okay. So 9. So if I want to say 15, 9 plus Vav. 9 plus 6. Right? So that's 15. Sorry if you're just listening to the podcast. They've got basically like a purplish, bluish, starry night in the background, and we've got the Hebrew numbers in the heavens. Ooh. Yes, please do what Admin Brenda's writing there. Please click thumbs up to support the teaching. Okay? So that's 15. That's an oddball. It's tet vav. 9 plus 6 is 15. And I'm not going to change all the colors again. I'll just write the next one. Actually, maybe that's enough. That's enough. Okay. So, here we are. So that is why we have here. Tet plus vav. 9 plus 6. Okay. I think I'm enjoying writing on the screen a little too much. Okay, let's continue. And you see how we have the two numbers crammed here, the 15 and the 16? That means this line has those two verses, or at least it starts with the second one as well. Okay? So we say, Ve'asita et hakerashim lamishkan atzei shitim omedim. Ah, great. Pei says, great. Thanks, Rabbi. That solved my kept question until now. Baruch Hashem. Good. Good. So, asita. What's happening here with asita? So this is, of course, our verb, asa. There's the ayin. There's the sin. And because it ends in a hey, the hey has gone away. The hey is gone, right? All those verbs ending in hey, the hey goes away. Okay. And they follow this pattern. The ta should remind you of ata, you. So atzita means you did, or you made. And then we have our magical vav changes the aspect. So instead of you did or you made, it says, and you will do, or and you will make. Ve'asita, or so you shall make. Ve'asita, so you shall make. Et, we don't translate. Ha, the, kerashim. All right, so this is the word keresh. Keresh. You can see it. Actually, let me choose a different color. You can see it. I saw it on my screen, and then when I looked down, I don't know where to go. There it is. Okay. Boom. This is the singular form here. Okay? In yellow. Keresh. Kof, resh, shim. And this is like many of those words I've talked about, the Segholates. Yes, exactly, Pei, you got it. And the same for the next one, too. 9 plus 7 for the next one. Because Yod and Vav is also kind of like part of his name. And then after that, we hit 17, business as usual. 10 plus 7, 10 plus 8, 10 plus 9. And then all the other numbers are normal. All the 20s are just 20 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, 30. Everything else is regular and predictable. Only the numbers 15 and 16 kind of are weird if you're not expecting it. Okay. Just another little indication to remind us not to pronounce the name of God, because even his nickname we don't want to use as something mundane like a number. Right? All right, so all these words here, they're called segholates, that they have the pattern. When you make the plural, it goes just like we have up top. V'asita et hakerashim. So, for example, king, melech. Kings, melachim. Right? Same thing. Okay. All right. Hakerashim, the planks. This is like a slice of wood, right? A board. The board, the planks. La. So, a couple things happening here. And bear with me, those of you who are advanced, if it's a little bit basic, but I just want to knock this out for those who are new to make sure they can see it. Okay? So, the basic definite article rule, just very quickly. If you want to say the super simplest, I'm going to highlight. The super simplest way to say this, in ancient Hebrew it was hal, but in the Bible it's just ha, that lamed is gone. So we say ha, maybe purple wasn't the best choice. And then the X is just mean the word, okay? And then we put a dagesh, a dot, in that next letter whenever we can, okay? That means the, okay? Now what happens if we want another letter to come in and we want to put that at the beginning of the word, what we call inseparable prepositions, like beit, which means in, some other meanings too, kaf, like or as, lamed, to or for, like belonging to, they're going to kick out the hey. They're just going to come and just kick him out, and that's it, right? So just think about an ancient Israeli going in and kicking out the Canaanites, but we kept their homes, right? Sometimes. So if I want to put a lamed here in front of this word, I want to add a lamed to it. What happens is the hey is going to go away, and the lamed is just going to come in there. But the hey will leave its footprint. Okay? So, law. And then the dagesh is still there. That's what's going to happen. That's the process. So you get rid of the hey, but it leaves its footprint. So we want to be like language detectives. When you see these things, you think through it, you pick it apart, and then after a while, it's just automatic. Okay? Brendan says, did you know the sequence of our DNA spells out ka? Yeah, I've heard that before. I haven't checked into it myself. I hope that's true. I tend to be skeptical about those things, though. Tend to be skeptical. I'm gonna need a paper on that. But I hope it's true. That's very interesting if it is. Yeah, very interesting if it is. Okay. Wait, can you guys see the arrow? I have it on the wrong screen. So law, there it is. There's our law. So there's the lamed. 9, come back. What are you doing? There's the lamed that came in. And here's the footprint that was left behind from the ha. So the lamed is for. Is the Mishkan, the tabernacle. For the Mishkan, for the tabernacle. Atzei shittim. This is from the word eitz, which means tree. Atzim, which is trees. So literally, it says trees of shittim, acacia. That means wood. And this is actually kind of a cool thing. This is a cool thing to know. I remember I was watching a debate between a imam and a Greek scholar. I can see his face. Why am I forgetting his name lately? Maybe because I'm annoyed at him for thinking that the October 7th attacks might have been staged. It's kind of really a normal thinking guy. I think it's because he's hanging out with too many imams. He's hearing all kinds of conspiracy theories. Okay, maybe it's better I don't say his name then. But anyway, the imam hit him with like a contradiction in the apostolic writings. One gospel says that Judas was hanging on a tree. Another one said he's hanging on some wood, right? And the doctor didn't really have a great answer. He kind of had an okay answer. But I was thinking, oh, duh, that's because the Hebrew. The Hebrew. What's happening was that the Greek, zele, was just mimicking the Hebrew that's under the hood, so to speak. In Hebrew, wood, like a pile of wood for your fire, it's the same word as tree. We just say, hey, we need some tree for this house, right? We need some tree for the fire. That's just how Hebrew speaks about it. And that had just transitioned across into the Jewish Greek that was being used. So it's not a contradiction. It's just how the language worked. But reading in their translations, it seemed like a contradiction. Shalom, Yaakov. Great name, buddy. All right, so let's continue. So, Atzei shittim, acacia wood. Woods, trees of shittim, of acacia. Now this next part's interesting. Omedim. Omedim. Ayin mem dalet. So you remember amad is to stand. Like my bar mitzvah rabbi told me, think of Ahmad Rashad. There's a big basketball player back then. That didn't help me too much because I never cared for sports, but okay, except skateboarding, but whatever. Okay, so Ahmad Rashad, tall guy. Ahmad is to stand. The Amidah is the standing prayer. And Amud is a pillar. It's something that stands to support the house, right? And of course we know that the Torah Hashem Omedet le'olam va'ed. the Torah, the law of God, stands for all time. Oh, great. That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Debs. Admin Deb says, oh, yes, this was a verse I came up with myself. A question I came up with myself. And I got the answer from your word of the day shorts. Tree equals wood. Yay. Good. Yeah, so when you see something that seems like there's a contradiction in the scriptures, just think that's a translation issue. It doesn't mean they translate it wrongly, right? In some places, it would make more sense for English speakers or whatever to say wood. In other places, it makes more sense to say tree, right? And they were actually using different Greek words probably even. But when we unpack the Hebrew that's behind the thought process, then it's not a problem, right? Or even just when we're translating from Hebrew into English or Greek into English, sometimes you have issues with this. And it's not that the translation's bad, it's just these languages they're very different. So when you go from one to the other, you're approximating. This is something that I actually always respected about the Muslims, that they call their Quran, it can only be called Al-Quran, you can only call it the Quran if it's in the Arabic, right? What they consider their holy language, right? If it's in a translation, you're not allowed to call it the Quran. You have to call it the meaning of the Quran or the interpretation. And I think they're right about that way of thinking. When we read an English translation of the Bible, we're getting there's so much worldview that's coming through from the translators, from the committee, or whatever, and the word choices. So, anyway, as long as we have that in mind. Okay, so what's with the standing? Standing. Now, Rashi says that this is pertaining to their function, not that just they were piled up in a certain way, that their function was that they actually helped to support the Mishkan. So, that's why that's there. Okay, verse Tet Zion, that's 9 plus 7. Actually, let me get a drink real quickly, if you guys don't mind. I'm going to do this. I still don't have a drink screen for this one with the slides. There we go. All right. And we're back. Sorry, there was a part of the camera had an outline that was bothering me. Okay, here we go. Aser amot orech hakaresh ve'amaha v'chatzihi hamaha v'chav hakeresh ha'echad. Aser amot. Aser means 10. Amot. So an amma is a forearm length. Right? Now it was standardized. They had a standard one they used. Amot is plural. So 10 of those, usually called cubits. But let's just say forearms. In case, I know we have a lot of people where English is not your native language, so let's not use these outdated terms. Orech hakaresh. Orech is the length, right? And we talked about this word not too long ago. Many words come from this root. To arrange, to lengthen. We say that Hashem is orech apayim. He's long-nostriled, which means he's patient. Okay, so orech, the length of there it is, the karesh. Now what's going on? The word is karesh. Why is it karesh? Well, you see that little wishbone thing there? That guy is lengthening the sound. Because Brenda likes the floating rabbi. That guy's lengthening the sound because this is how our ancestors memorized the text. They give it as extra oomph there, as if they were rapping it. Right? So when you gave it the extra oomph, that lengthens the vowel. So it was not this way when Moshe Rabbeinu, probably not, would read it, right? It probably said hakeresh, right? Or however, as exactly as they pronounced it back then. But over time, the way of memorizing it was to hit those words hard. And so we lengthen the vowel. So hakeresh becomes hakaresh, because ah is a longer vowel than the segol, than the short e. Okay, the length of the plank, ve'ama v'chatzi, and a ama, a forearm length, va and chatzi, and a half. Now, why is it va here instead of ve? Who knows why it's va? Because usually the rule for the conjunction is we expect it to have an eh under it, right? Remember, we have two rules. We've got two rules, actually. Okay. So usually, with our vav, or the ancient waw, as it was called, still is a waw in Arabic, actually. I changed that to light blue. What happened? I'm sorry, I'm annoyed. I have to change that. I said light blue. Why are you red? We used red already. Okay, there we go. So usually we point it like this, right? Sorry again if you're listening on the podcast. It's a schwa, eh. Looks like a colon underneath. And then we have our special rule, the bump schwa rule, right? Bump. So if the first letter here starts with a B or an M or a P sound, which also could be F or a V for either of those, okay? Then we change this guy and point it as an U, right? So it changes into what we call shurik. It's still a vav. It's got the dot in there. So U, whatever. Okay, so why now is it pointed in the example I just showed you in the Torah as a va with a patach under it, the ah sound, the little horizontal flat? What is going on? Yeah, Deb's got it. Very nice. Good. Gary says, imagine using an auric vacuum as a ruler. Great mnemonic. Very good. Oh, I didn't realize I'm blocking some of what I was showing. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go back to the Hebrew text and apply what Deb said. So here we are. So that is exactly right. This is why we have the ah here. Because this sign, the composite schwa, underneath the chet, that's still a schwa. And you're not allowed to start a word, like Deb said, with two schwas in a row. Okay? So what we do instead, when it's a composite schwa, we copy the sound of that one. So this one is the ah, so that's why there's an ah there. Just in case you're wondering. Okay? You don't have to know this. Don't stress. If it's weird and complicated, no problem. I'm just trying to give stuff for everybody, so everybody's benefiting from this. Okay? Hey, Shalom, Alex. Glad to have you here, Achi. All right. And I am showing... Oh, I lost my mouse. Okay. Not too bad. Concurrence right now. Please make sure to click like, though, okay, guys? I'm showing just 2/3 of you hit like. So, it'd be nice if you do. All right. Where were we? V'chatzi. So, ve'ama v'chatzi, and a forearm length and a half. Ha'ama, of the forearm length. Rochav, for the width. W-I-D-T-H. Width. Width. The width of ha'keresh, the plank. Ha'echad, the one. So each one will be that width that's being discussed there. Okay. Sorry, I need another drink. How am I gonna? Oh yeah, here we go. Move it. Good. No. Trying to move the camera back, and I move the screen. There we go, and we're back. All right. Verse Yod Zayin, how are we on time? Okay, we can do it. Good. Just trying to get my mouse back there. Okay, good. Shetei Yadot Lakeresh Haechad Meshulavot Isha El Achotach Ken Ta'aseh Lechol Kachshei HaMishkan. Shetei, this is from Shetayim. We dropped the mem. So 2 of Yadot. So Yadot, the root is Yad. You probably recognize it. Yad. Yad, a hand. Float on. Float on, Rob. Float on. So Yadot, these are tendons. Tendons, they're like little things that look like hands for connecting the woods together. La keresh, for the plank, ha echad, the one. Meshulavot, this is a active participle, meaning they are interlocked. They're interlocked. Isha, a lady, el unto, achotah, her achot, her sister. And I don't know if you guys remember this. This is just architectural language that means each one next to the other, or one to the other. And if it had been a masculine situation we're talking about, then it would be ish instead. So isha is a woman. Ish is a man. Okay. Ken ta'aseh. Ken. Don't confuse it with ken in modern Hebrew, meaning yes, this is such or thusly, in that kind of way, and in such a manner. Ken. Ken ta'aseh. Now here we have something. Hold on, where's my colors? That's fine. So the verb you recognize, asa, and the tav again is reminding us of the word ata. This part here, that reminds you of that. When you stick that on the front of the verb in that form, the ta reminds you of ata, you talking to a man. So you will asa, asa. We've had this word many times, to do or to make. So you shall make. Oh, interesting. So Gary says, even in English terminology, he writes, when repairing rotten support beams, we sister on a new one. That's interesting. Wow, really cool to see that comes across into English. It might have even come through from Hebrew, right? Or maybe other ancient languages did this as well. Ancient Near Eastern languages did this as well. I'm not sure about that. Very interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Gary. I love it when we have stuff like that. Okay. Oh, I jumped a line, though. Look what I did. See, ta'aseh, and up here there's ta'aseh. This is what scribes sometimes would do. When they're copying the text, they're looking, they're copying, looking, copying. And then there's a word in one form, and then the exact same word in that form is somewhere else. And so sometimes in manuscripts, you end up missing a line or two. But it's very easy for modern scholars doing critical studies to realize, okay, here's what happened. This guy, he did what I just did. He did the same thing. Look, my eyes were looking, because I looked from this screen here, looking down here, so I could draw, right? So I'm looking for this word, and then I hit the exact same word, same form, over here, you see? So if I was just copying the text and say you're doing this all day long, 12 hours a day, you could end up missing that middle line, right? So achota ken ta'aseh, and then we end up with tachat instead of lechol. So it's funny because sometimes there'll be critics, right? Like from other religions, they'll criticize our texts. Look, you have so many variances in the manuscripts. Yeah, but we know what caused them. because there's common things like this. There's common things that scribes do when you're copying that word. It was the one up above. And so they have all, I think it's called, I think it's homeotelioton. Yeah. Anyway, they have like technical terms for all the kinds of common mistakes that scribes make. So you have thousands of manuscripts, and if you run into some errors here and there that a human did, it's pretty easy to see which one's the right. Like, very often it doesn't even make sense if you read the sentence and you just did a copy and you skipped a sentence, right? So, yeah, and then the majority are not going to have those errors, right? So it's funny when people make a big deal out of this, like, oh, look at all the differences in your manuscripts. Yeah, but we have our manuscripts. So that's we have our manuscripts. Where are yours? Right? We have our manuscripts. The one group that does this the most, they had a caliph who burned all the variances, all the differences that were different from the Quran that he liked. He burned them, had them collected. People were killed. They didn't want to give up their Qurans. They had memorized it, and then they wrote it down themselves as precious to them. They died if they wouldn't give it up because he didn't want it to be where you had variances, although there's still variances anyway. But burned it all. Can you imagine? Burned all these Qurans so that you'd have one family, one text type going on from. I think it was Uthman. Yes, I might be wrong about that. So anybody, feel free to correct me. But the fact that we have thousands of manuscripts is actually a great benefit. So don't let that trouble your heart if you hear anything about it, because we can put them together. It's like a puzzle. You can see, okay, it's very clear. This is what the text is. We know. That's called a critical apparatus. If ever you're interested, you can get a BHS Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, which has the apparatus on the bottom, and it'll tell you there's a couple manuscripts that say like this, some like this, the majority are this, the oldest ones are this, etc. You can look to the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's funny. I'm not easy to please because twice last week we had 45, right? So I'm like, 31, bah humbug. So, it's fine. That's fine. Shalom, Jeannie. Okay, continue on. With the right place, not the place where my eyes skipped. Cain, such ta'aseh, you shall make, or you shall do. Le, to, or for, chol, all of karshei hamishkan. So this is from keresh. The plural was kerashim. We dropped the mem. Karshei, planks of. Planks of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Okay, we're 47 minutes in. Maybe I'll do the next one really quickly, just so we can kind of stay on schedule. If you need to go, feel free to go, no problem. And everybody make sure to give a shout out to Hashem for Gary, that the code review goes really well today, please. Okay, verse Yod Chet, that's 18. I'll pick it up a little bit now with a little bit fewer explanations. Ve'asita et hakerashim la mishkan asrihim keresh lifat nigba temana. Ve'asita, so you shall make et, we don't translate, hakerashim, the planks, the wooden planks, la, so the le is for, is the mishkan, for the tabernacle. I prefer to say mishkan, even in English, because it reminds you of the shakan part, the shakan, like the shekinah, right? The shekinah comes from shakan, to inhabit, the part of Hashem which dwells with us. Asrim. Asrim is from aser, meaning 10, and it's a plural. That makes it 20 in this case. 20. I don't know why it's not esrayim. That would have been logical to me to use the dual ending. We were talking about this over in Hebrew Literacy chat group the other day. Someone had a question about the plurals and stuff, and the dual came up. I said, well, we have the dual, but we don't always use it when you think you would, right? Like if it was me, and I was saying, okay, because look, mea is 100. What is 200? We don't say shtei, we don't say two, we say matayim. You put the ayim dual at the end, and it's ayim, 2 meas, 200s. So if aser is 10, why not esrayim, 2 10s for 20? But nope, it's just a plural. Asrim is 20. Selah. So 20, keresh, plank, and even though it's just singular here, it's performing a plural function in general, we understand. 20, plank, lifat, le, for the peah. Now peah, so peah usually means corner, right? Like we have the mitzvah not to glean, not to glean, but not to harvest the corners, the peot of your field, to leave it for the poor and the needy and the foreigners who are in the land, right? And also it can mean like, the little, the side growths, right? You got the side growth, it's the corners of the beard. We're told not to cut the corners of your beard, right? But Rashi says that's not what it means. I'm sorry, even as, who is it? It's Rashi. Rashi here says, here it doesn't mean that. Here it means the whole side along that corner. That's the tradition of understanding it here, okay? Negba temana. And Ibn Ezra here, he does actually explain this. This is kind of strange. We talked about this. It's funny. We just talked about this kind of thing. It was either last Shabbat or the Shabbat before, over in Numbers. So very interesting. We're seeing it here again. So Negba, this is Negev, the Negev. The Negev is the southern region of Israel, right, where the desert, there's a lot of desert kind of looking stuff down there. It's where, you've got the Ein Gedi and, the Yam HaMelach, all that stuff is over there. So Negev, that's that region. What about the Hey at the end? Okay, this is what we call the Hey locative, the direction towards, right? When you're talking about going towards someplace or facing towards someplace, often but not always, we put the Hey at the end. So for example, come, let us go up to Jerusalem, right? Or let us go up to Jerusalem. Na'aleh Yerushalayim ma. Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, at the end. Towards Jerusalem, you see? Let's go to the sea. Nelech Yama. Let's go Yam, sea, It's like words, like sea words in English, right? Let's go home. Nelech Beita. Bayit for house. The at the end is homeward, so the homeward bound. I want to be Beita. You could just say that if you needed fewer lyrics in that song instead of homeward bound. Okay? And then Teimana, very interesting again. This is from the word Yemen. Yemen, which we had up above. Maybe this is even an interesting exclusio. We had it as, I'm sorry, that was in the Psalm. The Psalm we did. Yamin is the right hand, right? Yemen is right. Because when you're coming out of Egypt and you're going that direction, you're going eastern. Yemen is the land, the country on the right. So it's called Yemen. It's called Yemen from our perspective. Teimana is just a similar word, but again we have that hey locative at the end. So southernward. It's southern. It's to your right if you're going to the east, right? So southernward. So this negba teimana, it's using two different words to say southwards. And so Ibn Ezra explains that this is an exaggeration. It's saying the most southern part of the Mishkan. Okay, the most southern part. Like excessively southward part. Yeah, like Gary had written Jerusalem word. Okay, so that's it. We finished. We're at 53 minutes in. I think I'm going to call it now. We did our verses that we planned. You guys have a great day going forward over in the Western Hemisphere and over here in the Eastern Hemisphere. Please have a wonderful night. I hope that your day was fantastic and amazing, and may Hashem's blessings be on all of you. Remember to pray for our troops. May there be speedy victory, no more shooting of our own hostages, and just that everything will flow according to his will, and that many, many Jews will return to Hashem, and that even many Goyim and even many of the Muslims will come to have awe for the God of Israel. Shalom, shalom. You guys have a great day.